Well, welcome everybody to our Tactical Tuesday. It is the end of January, can you believe it? And here we are with another Tactical Tuesday. We're continuing on. 2025 is almost a month old already. And tonight we wanted to do something a little different than normal. A lot of times we come on here and what we're doing is teaching some sort of strategy or some sort of education so that you can become a better real estate investor. You can spend less time. You don't have to make the mistakes that a lot of us have made over the years. And so that's usually what we do on a Tactical Tuesday. But tonight, what we wanted to do was kind of just bring to you some sort of opportunity. And also, there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from when you talk to others that are taking action, that are putting together deals, that are doing stuff that's maybe a little bit different out there than what is normal, supposedly. So tonight we're going to be interviewing a couple of our IGNiTED members and actually just asking them some pretty simple questions, finding out what they're up to, and maybe that's something that all of you that are watching can take a little inspiration from. Okay, so I see a bunch of you starting to come on, so welcome. As you come on, just throw in the chat there that you are here. I would appreciate that. I'm just going to make sure, yes, everyone can see the chat. So that's good. We're all good to go. And of course, for all of you that are joining us here live in Zoom, that's great. You can ask questions as we go along tonight. Throw them in the chat. We'll be able to ask our panelists those questions. And then for those of you that are watching this on YouTube or in our Fearless group tomorrow, you can also comment and ask questions, and we will make sure that you are connected to those answers. Okay, there we go. Yes, Nicole, I see she says, hello, everyone from Moncton. It's good to be here after so long. Eric and Tara, nice to have you here. And I know a lot of others of you are starting to join, and here we go. The attendees are starting to increase. So let's hello to the Conrads all the way from Ottawa. Nice to have you here as well. Okay, so guys, maybe we'll get Nicole and Dale. If you guys want to turn your cameras on, unmute yourself. And what I'm going to do, because I know it helps a lot, is if I pin all three of us, and then we are all going to be on. There we go. Okay. So Nicole, if you just let me know when Colin joins, that would be great. And then I can pin him as well. Or unless he's going to be in the same screen, whatever.
He'll probably
okay.
be breaking.
Okay, perfect. So you don't need to let me know. I'll figure that out. All right, guys. Well, welcome. And Nicole, Colin, I've known you guys for a number of years now. You've been our IGNiTED members for a number of years now. You've been doing a lot of different things in real estate all across Canada. And here I find out that, you guys are all the way in Moncton and you're doing stuff all the way, like not just the other side of the country, but like the other side. And that is coast to coast. Exactly. Right.
Literally coast to coast.
Literally coast to coast. So all the way in. So correct me if I'm wrong. It's the Victoria area that you're kind of doing stuff in?
Yep, right in the city of Victoria proper. Not even in the burbs, in the city of Victoria.
City of Victoria. Okay.
Yeah.
So Dale, maybe you can just, I know that we have chatted before, and I know that you've been to some of our boot camps, and I know that you've done some of this stuff. You're obviously involved in real estate. You've connected here with Colin and Nicole, and Melanie Robinson is also a part of this, correct? Okay.
Correct.
She'd be here, but she's on a plane to Costa Rica right now.
Okay, yes, that is pretty cool. So, and I guess I will give her a pass for not being here tonight. Dale, can you just introduce yourself? What have you, like, what's your experience when it comes to real estate? How did you connect with Colin and Nicole and Melanie?
Yeah, so I am in Victoria. I've been investing in real estate since I was 20, I want to say, and I'm obviously gonna date myself, but that goes back 2 decades now, and then a little bit. So yeah, I started out just doing the typical BRRRR, but this is back before Bigger Pockets podcast, so we didn't actually know what it was called. It was just like, hey, I'm gonna buy this triplex. I'm going to fix it up because it looks like junk, and I'm going to get better rent. And skipped the refinance part a couple times before we figured that one out. But did that for about 8 to 10 years, retired on that income, traveled for a bit, took a bit of a break from real estate, and then came back, lived in Victoria. Actually had the unfortunate um, circumstance where I let the boots on the ground manager, didn't manage him properly, and that really tanked my portfolio along with the economics of tertiary markets in Northern Ontario, and so I eventually sold those. Brought my investments closer to home and restarted just before the interest rates went up. And so that made me pivot into, hey, what are we going to do that's going to get ahead of these economic issues? And in 2022, I said to myself, development's the spot to be. It's going to be in that missing middle space because there is this big gap. You can see the legislation coming. It's got the political pressures as tailwinds and not headwinds. And so we went and we had favorable bylaws here as well that had just come into place. So we jumped on those. Uh, got Colin and Nicole and Melanie. I knew them through Synergy Mastermind and a little bit through, actually, I met Colin and Nicole, or saw them first at a boot camp. Uh, excuse me, sorry guys, I'm a little bit sick. At an IGNiTED boot camp, Colin had Emma in his hands, and they were the RRSP people, and so that was cool to know. And yeah, and so that's how I met them. And so I told them about my plan, and they jumped on board and supported that wholeheartedly. And now we've got 3 projects and 30 units under development.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. That's pretty cool. And there was a lot of information that you shared there in that like 2 minutes that you just spoke. And so I got a whole bunch of questions for you. But let's
Sure.
just start off with, first of all, missing middle. This is kind of what you guys are calling it, and I like it. You're kind of terming your projects something a little different than what everybody else does out there. So why don't we just, first of all, let's define that. What does it mean, missing middle, when you say that?
Yeah. Nicole, do you want me to keep rolling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do want to say, like, unfortunately, we can't claim missing middle as our line, because missing middle is something that most, if not like most municipalities, especially secondary markets, have some kind of missing middle like discussion in their community plan and in their future planning for their city. But it's sometimes called something different. But missing middle is a term that basically looks at that market that is not the big high-rise building, and it's not single family homes. So it's essentially in the middle. It's smaller multifamilies, like 6 units, or townhomes, or I mean, like the stacked townhomes that we see in Alberta. That's technically like part of the missing middle. But they're called different things in different areas. Did you want to go? Did you want to elaborate, Dale? I don't
Yeah,
know if
no,
you
you,
more
you nailed
specific.
it. Like as a product type of building, it is that residential still in the Part 9 of the building code, you know, like a townhouse. But they call them missing middle because for the longest time, development has been such a challenging game, and it's still challenging, but it was one of those things you had to have extremely deep pockets. You had to be extremely risk tolerant, and you put in a lot of work getting battered down as you ran the gauntlet of permitting processes. That it just wasn't worth it to run that gauntlet for 2 units or 4 units. You might as well do it for 6 stories. And so that's why nobody bothered to build this style, at least out here in Victoria, and hence why we call it missing middle, because we don't have a ton of it.
Okay. Okay.
And
So the
mm,
next question that comes to mind for me is why? If it is the missing middle, and a lot of people tend not to go towards that because of cost and because of all the things you just explained, are you guys attracted to this little missing section?
well, okay, so the way that Colin and I came to this is actually just more organic and less purposefully like went looking for the missing middle. When we started doing developments in Nova Scotia, we started doing single family homes. Like we started in 2021 and that market, it was so it needed a lot of homes, and single family homes are very easy to sell. And so, but they went from, we were estimating selling them at around 380 in 2021. And by the time we built them, 9 months later, we were selling them for like 450, 490, 550. I think 590 is what we got up to when we sold those single family homes within a very short period of time. And so very quickly, although we could still sell them, we kind of ran out of that market. The market where we were hoping to aim to was people who just needed, like, it was typically young families who needed to get into a home. It was sometimes like older people, because we just built, this is like very niche, but we just built on slab, and everything was on the same level. So like older people also liked our homes. But it just became so clear that the needs of the community were more in the lower price points. Like the market rose too fast that we couldn't, like, those homes were like, we couldn't sell them for what we were going to sell them for originally. They weren't, they were already worth too much. And so we pivoted, and now we build semi-detached duplexes. And that we can sell very quickly, because it's the exact market that is looking and needing homes right now. That's how we started doing this sort of missing middle, which is the same market that we're doing in Victoria. But Dale can speak to why we are focusing on missing middle in Victoria, because I mean, it's very logical. Like, it's not like, I mean, like, obviously we are, there's a reason why we all found each other. There's a reason why we, like, connect. I think that we all have like alternate reasons for doing this, which are good natured, and the fact that we want to contribute to solving the housing crisis, and we want to put people into homes who need to be there, but also it's extremely logical and very smart right now. And I'll let Dale talk about that, because he knows all that stuff.
Okay, so when you say very smart and logical, does that mean that your projects make money?
Yeah, so
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
That's important for everybody that's watching, and for us as investors. We wouldn't do it unless we're making money at it, right? Like, as much as we want to maybe solve a housing crisis and we want to do stuff like that, like, that's good. We talk about that all the time. We've talked about that for years. We want to be good humans, right? We want to help others. But at the same time, if we can make those strategies make us money, then that's only going to help, right? That's going to help us to continue on doing it. Okay.
yeah.
So, Dale, did you have anything to add to what Nicole was saying?
Yeah, I would say so. First of all, I think making money as investors is condition precedent. If it doesn't pencil, there's no point in looking at it. It doesn't matter what it is. Where if we wanted to be not for profits, then we'd go start a not for profit. Um,
Absolutely.
so being good humans doesn't preclude that. Like, we just need to make money while we're doing
yeah,
it. And so we go and we make money. Everything pencils. Our projects in particular, they pencil between 20 and 25% as a that unlevered, so no leverage at all. They would be between 20 and 25%. Like to start our projects when we first look at the acquisition phase, somewhere around 23 is kind of 23 or up is good, because there's always going to be an expense that comes into play that you're not looking at, or that you haven't seen before, right? This the odd thing, like, oh, there's rock here, or there's this extra tree there that's creating this problem. So always good to start high, and you want to bring something to yeah, by the time you get to the banks, it's lower, but your costs are more secured by then. And but how we got into the missing middle was, I looked at my background and my experience renovating everything from 4 units and below. Um, and it's important there. If you've only built or renovated a single family home, you only understand the construction for a single family without the fire separation requirements that happen between units. So that's just a really good thing to know as you step into a multifamily space. And but then also the building code itself is pretty simple, and the buildings themselves are pretty simple. As soon as you get above that 3 stories above ground, you're into different geotechnical issues, different support requirements, different structural code, different building code itself. It's very, very, very engineering heavy. And a single mistake on a takeoff for your framing outline could create hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference, so that the numbers you play with are different. So why missing middle for me was I had the experience, the project's penciled, where I had enough experience to take that next step. I'll put it that way. Take that next step. The project's penciled, so that made sense. And there was this gap where all the big players in town were looking at these 6-story development sites, which are relegated to different areas of town, different streets. And we had this new missing middle housing initiative bylaw that came in that blanketed the rest of the city, that said, hey, we can do 6 units in the middle block and 12 on a corner lot. And we're doing so that came about at a time when all the flippers, all the small investors, everyone was running for the hills. They were just trying to put the fires out in their own house. And so I looked at that and said, so we have no competition. The big guys are looking the other way. We're not going to stomp by them. We're not going to have anybody else coming in and driving up the prices. So this is a great opportunity to find these projects on the market, and like I said, have that first mover advantage. And so that, with the fact that the project penciled, it allowed us to create a product type that targets an attainable housing or attainable housing group. So like Nicole was saying, in Moncton or in Nova Scotia, the single family homes are just out of the price range of a first time home buyer. Same thing here now, and it has been for years. But we get to keep our townhouse style products. We get to keep that in that attainability or that affordability range. I don't want to say affordable because it's not like affordable housing like subsidized. It's just attainable. It's easier for that first time home buyer with 125 to 150,000 in income, 25 to 50 grand down, or 50 grand, I guess closer to 50 grand down. They can own their own place and afford the payments. And so that's it, kind of like took everything and put it all together. It's like, from a business standpoint, it made a lot of sense to niche into this market, and we had a product that there was a lot of crying out for within the community. Because I mean, what family out there dreams of buying a 3rd story or the top floor of a condo building versus having a backyard, right? It might be a shared backyard, but at least they have access to green space for their kids and their pets and stuff like that. So yeah, for all those reasons, and I'm sorry I'm rambling now, but for all those reasons, missing middle was very purposeful for me.
Yeah, it was basically like right place, right time, right circumstance. Everything sort
Yeah.
of, and our Emerson project, the very first project, is the first application to the city of Victoria's missing middle legislation. So it really is just like the right time. This came out, and when a town and a government is like all gung ho about an idea, that's what they throw their time and their money and their people into. And they promised us that we would have 1 month turnaround for our permits. Like, when we submit a permit and then they come back to us with comments or whatever, they promised us they'd do it within 1 month, which in development, it was never my experience when we did anything personally. We have a horrible experience with the region of the regional municipality of Halifax, and so when they kept to that 1 month, turnaround time, we were impressed. And so we just kind of knew that this is something that they want to continue, and they want to set it off on a good foot. So like, super excited that we were the very first submission. And I think that it will be a very, very good flagship for us and them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just so that I'm clear here, what you're doing and what you're like, the development because Dale, you mentioned earlier your experience in this was, fourplex and under type of idea, buying it, maybe renovating it, doing that sort of thing. But this is different. this is moving into actually like building, developing townhouses, etc. And so like this is a whole nother scope of on top of what you've learned in the past, right? So what uh helped you, I suppose, get the guts to go from, you know, what you kind of knew and what you've done several times to now going into a whole nother realm of building, developing, dealing with, I mean, Vancouver Island, dealing with rock issues. And, you know, you don't build basements like you might in the rest of the country. And you don't like all of these different things in the building and developing. How'd you get the guts to move to that?
Nicole, if you don't mind me answering this one, if I'm completely honest, Corey, uh, a severe amount of ADHD. Um,
Okay.
so what I mean by that, so ADHD is characterized by a couple of things. Like everyone understands the hyperactive stuff, but the ability to hyperfocus and intake information, and then turn that information into like for me it's puzzle pieces. Oh, this piece and this piece, and put it all together to create something. But it also goes along with ADHD. Usually goes an unfounded belief in one's own ability to do anything.
Okay.
And so that's me in a nutshell. Like, yes, I have experience with a lot of renovations, and I didn't just like paint things and have someone else install a new kitchen. Like I've torn houses down to the studs and built them out multiple times. So that's like one layer of the cake. Developing adds that extra layer of the cake on that involves your permitting processes, your entitlement processes. It's working with um, a number of different designers. So you have your architect involved when you're over 5 units, and frankly, you can lean on those guys. You can lean on them a lot, actually. They're all going to have relatively decent floor plans. If you're very clear with your vision, you can trust them to guide you to some extent. Um, you still have to double check their work to make sure that it is creating your vision. But if you can start with a really clear vision, you can let them manage the technicalities of that vision to get you to the point where you're going to have a saleable or rentable product at the end. So so the courage was really having some background, being maybe a little bit of what I didn't know, and just kind of diving headlong in and making it work. Um, that's probably the biggest thing, and then knowing that I could lean on the experts along the way to create that end vision.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would say also for you, Dale, that yes, I think it was like you couldn't not. It's like you didn't give yourself the option to fail, first of all. Personality slash life circumstance. But
Yeah,
but
sure.
also I think, for people who maybe are out there who are in a, maybe similar situation to you back in 2022, you took the time, like you went deep into the data. Like, well, we call you the king of spreadsheets. Like there's a reason we call you the king of spreadsheets, but like I'm even talking about, like getting to know the city councilors in, the city of Victoria to truly understand this legislation, to understand what their drive is, to understand if they actually have the guts and the meat to go along with, what they're saying. To have the partnerships like the realtor and the construction manager, like, like as you were saying, but you just I'm always so impressed by the fact that you take so much time and you put a lot of effort into not just the data but also the relationships, like the people as well. I just think that for other people who are thinking of maybe getting into development, it is a lot. There's a lot of pre-work that goes into, like how many properties did you have, or did you and your realtor have to look at before you found the first one, the one that actually would make sense?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, if we think about it that way, it's not even just the how many properties. What you're talking about, there's actually like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? It's like one bite at a time. Um, in a process, if you take that and you apply it to a process and you say like, here's my investment thesis. I think missing middle housing is going to be the next big thing. So you say, okay, well, we're going to dive into the data of the missing middle zoning supplement, and we're going to understand conceptually what that looks like. I actually worked with a designer overseas and I said, like, let's design a building that kind of fits this parameters and fits this city lot, based on the standard kind of city lots we have. And while we're at it, let's scrape all the data off the city website and run it against BC assessment, which you're not supposed to do, but we did anyways. And now I have a list of every single property in Victoria, and I filtered it by age of the building, lot size, blah, 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 to make sure that made sense to me. Like, oh yeah, there's 1,500 properties that could be reasonably developed here. So it's worth our time to spend the time to create an investment model around this. Um, and that made sense. And then I think I had like 9 different sources of information for how much does it cost to build something of this size per square foot. All right, 9 different sources, from quantity surveyors to contractors to just other investors. And okay, that gives me this estimate range that seems to make sense. But even then, once we got the design done, before we went any further, before we submitted a development permit, we took that design to a quantity surveyor. I said, "Hey Tom, how much is this going to cost me to build?" And he's like, "It's going to be this much." Based on the other projects we're seeing. I said, "Okay, well, that's roughly within where we thought we would be. So let's take the next step." And it was this check and balance all along the way. But to your question, Nicole, I think once we narrowed it down to the lot width that we wanted, the lot size we wanted, the areas that we wanted, I think we probably looked at 15 to 20. Didn't necessarily go out to them though. That's the nice thing about developing. Just be like, you get the list come in every day of like what's on the market. And it's like, that'll work, that'll work. Those other ones won't work. So um, let's let's do some due diligence and work on things before we actually go out and look at the building, because who cares about the building in development, right? We're just gonna tear it down anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to speak up for what I think some of the attendees here might be thinking, listening to the two of you talking.
That I'm
Um,
crazy.
and
Yes.
and Dale, like I gotta say, I can tell by what Nicole has said already and but what you have said to me that you must be a spreadsheet guy and you must be somebody that loves data and putting all of this stuff together. And so here's a point that I want to make clear for everybody that might be watching this right now is you might be thinking, because this is kind of what I'm thinking, is that I don't think I have the attention to put towards all of the spreadsheets and figuring out all the data and figuring out all this sorts of stuff. But there are people out there that do. And so and so Nicole, from what I know of you, knowing you 4 or 5 years, however long it's been, I don't
Yeah.
think you do either. But that's where you mix and you grab a partner that is good at this stuff. So Nicole and Colin bring a ton of value to putting something like this together. Melanie brings a ton of value to putting something like this together. Dale, you bring a ton of value to putting something like this together. So let's just start a new conversation here for a minute or two about how all of these different attributes come together to form whatever you guys are forming here and putting together the deals you're putting together here. Like, I'm just curious, how did that initial conversation start with Colin and Nicole and with Melanie and with Dale and saying, hey, let's get together and do something together? How does that initial conversation even begin?
All right.
Well, I can
Go ahead.
well,
You go ahead. You go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, like, so this is Dale's baby. Like the pre-thought, um, wasn't that something from like Minority Report? Pre-thoughts? Anyways, old movie reference.
I love that
Yes.
movie.
Yeah, all of the prep and that ADHD work that he did to analyze whether or not this was going to make sense, that was Dale. And that was
Okay.
like, we knew Dale at that point. Premeditation, maybe? Yeah, okay, well, maybe. We knew Dale and we knew what he was working on, and like obviously we got to know him, and I mean, even before I knew what kind of spreadsheets you were working on, I knew that you were very good at them. But then it was, so he got to a point where he knew that he wanted to bring in other people, and he approached Colin and me, and he approached Melanie separately, and we both were like, so the other part of this is like so that was Dale. Like Dale's like, I need people who are maybe more investor relations focused, who have, you know, like raised capital before, and, you know, like might have more connections in all these like other communities. But for us, we were like, I would say that we'd probably been feeling a little bit not burned by other partnerships, but we're like, we'd had other partnerships. We were hesitant to enter into more partnerships. I can't say the same for Mel, but she was also, she'd been burned by a project, the giant rock project, as talking about
Yeah.
rock on the island. And so she was hesitant about like, oh my God, do I want to get into another development? She was literally just getting out of one. But you know, like we all had so much confidence in what Dale, how he had, you know, like presented this project, and all the research that he'd done, and how it did make sense. And
Right.
so we decided to move forward in our partnership. But I think one of the interesting and I think unique parts about our partnership, like our company, is that we actually did do personality tests. Colin, I think, is still putting Emma to sleep, and he's sending us messages. We
Yeah,
did
he's putting it in the
personality.
chat there. Personality tests,
Yeah.
goal setting sessions, and making sure the projects with support
Yeah.
our goals and our visions. Yeah.
Yeah, like when we don't get together very often because we live coast to coast, we live across the country, but we were lucky enough to see each other in November. And, you know, like we had done personality tests earlier. We had a group goal setting session. We sort of like future casted for the company. And we work on that partnership like on a regular basis because in our past relationships, like partnerships, we didn't do that. And those partnerships I think suffered. And we want this one to not suffer. So we put in the time and we sort of figure out what needs to be done.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to add anything, Dale.
So
I was just go ahead, Corey.
No, sorry, Dale. I was just gonna say, because you know there's a bunch of people on here that, you know, their names I don't recognize. So maybe they're watching this for the first time, and maybe they're new investors, maybe they're seasoned investors. I don't know. But for those of you that are watching and you're kind of wondering, you know, like there's parts of this investing thing or buying real estate thing or, you know, development thing or whatever it is, whatever avenue you might want to go down. And many of us, I know myself included, started with a single family home and renting it out, and a single family home and renting it out, and it, you know, it just started slowly and continued on, and little townhouses and little condos and then suite homes, and it builds, right? So, and Dale, you mentioned before you started with smaller stuff and now you're doing bigger stuff. So, but through that process, we started thinking, well, I would love to do something like this, but I don't have the skill set or the personality to do that. But maybe the thought then is where do I find somebody that does have that personality or that skill set? And, you know, our personality is going to match, and can we do something together? And so one point that I just want to make very abundantly clear for everybody that's watching here is the importance of relationships in this business is probably the number one key to making somebody with aspirations successful. Is building those relationships and having strong relationships and doing partnerships with people that have the skills that you don't have. And that is very, very important. And we could go so many different ways with this conversation. And I wasn't 100% sure where we would go with it, but I think that is a big point that I want everybody to know. But we've been on for almost 40 minutes now, and we don't have a ton of time left. So what I would like to now move towards is you're building this missing middle in the Victoria area. Dale, you've done a ton of research. You know what works. You've got these plans. You did mention you got them done overseas, so that's another curious point that I'd love to know about. But where are you at with this? Like, where did you start? What's your goal? And where are you in between those two things right now?
So, just a point of clarity. Before we ever put anything under contract, I worked with an architectural technologist from overseas, hired them on Upwork, basically went through the housing initiative bylaw with them and said, this is what we need to build on this type of a property. Let's design something. That was, $1,500 and 3 to 4 weeks of working with this person just to see if conceptually this would work. The other way to do that is just to go to a designer in the municipality. They're familiar with the municipality. I would have paid a lot more though.
Okay.
So that's why I did it that way, but it was part of that was about me learning how these pieces all fit together.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's why I did that. When we actually went to create the plans for the building, we went to an architect here, a local architect who had worked
Okay.
with the city.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's you're gonna have a hard time if you try and source an architect from overseas to do something here. It's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
But so where we were at the beginning was just a 1 6 unit building, and where we are now is kind of fall of 2023, when we realized that this would pencil, and when we realized that there was still a good buying opportunity because everyone was still scared essentially uh, of development at that time, and knowing that there was a project lead time of 2 years or so before 2 to 3 years before you come to market. We really felt that buying in the recession in a recessionary point would be the right time. And so we looked at our partnership and said, what needs to change to enable us to do this? We made some adjustments and we bought those next two projects, which brought us to 30 units. And where we are right now, honestly, is really just hyper focused on delivering the products that we've committed to. There is, probably 90% of our conversation is about that. And then there's a 10% of our conversation that is about growing the company, next projects, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, I mean, in any development business, you got to build a track record. Um,
Yeah.
if I think about people who if you think about investors, the ones who have been in the business a really long time and they want to invest in younger guys' projects, where they don't have to do the work, but make the younger guy do the work. Those guys are all looking for a track record. Family offices, I don't call it easy money, but the big money is looking for people with track record, people with the experience in it, who've been on the owner side, taken some risk, and delivered successfully to their investors. Um, and so building that track record makes sense for us. And that's probably why I think there's a match between people taking that next step in their real estate journey, whether from single family home to and burning something to a small development. There's this gap for relational investors to make some money and to make good money, right? Because as soon as you get up to somebody who's been in the business 5, 10 years, developing for 5 or 10 years, they're not in a position, or they shouldn't be in a position uh, to need the retail investor to want to make new relationships. They've built all their relationships, so it is a kind of like a team effort to build relationships and develop that history together. And um, yeah, and so we're just really trying to deliver a product on time and on budget, um, and to be able to point to a track record and deliver for our investors, right? We don't want to bite off more than we can chew.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that that we're taking care of the people that have trusted in us with their investment dollars.
Absolutely. Um, is the goal in this to develop, build, and then sell everything and have a profit, or is there a plan in there for you guys to keep some of these properties, or like what is your overall plan? Is it build and sell?
Yeah, overall is build
Okay.
and sell. That works really well in this market. We're in Victoria. We don't have favorable rental bylaws. Rents are dropping. Um, it's not something you want to make pencil, and it's hard to get economies of scale at anything below 12 units.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
if we were to ever step into bigger spaces, then maybe. But at this point, 12 and below it is a build to sell model.
Okay. Okay. Welcome, Colin. For those of you that don't know Colin, welcome. And I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay. I noticed you texting or putting in the chat there, Colin, adding a few things. So thank you for that. All right, so we've kind of covered a little bit about, we have one comment here that maybe we could touch on briefly. Deborah, I think it is, made a comment here. The biggest thing for me is setting up a business structure for each partnership. So, like we all, when we do partnerships or we do JVs or raise capital, whatever, all of these different ways of setting things up, it might be different every single time how we set up a business structure. Let's just talk about your specific situation here. How much time did you spend figuring out the structure you want, getting it put in place? Was that a very time-consuming, costly thing to do? Maybe just shed a little bit of light on that aspect of it.
Yeah, I can do that. We did set up uh, a parent company, Missing Middle Solution. Once we figured out we were having multiple projects, we put each project into a corporation, and then we took a parent company and put it over top. That's in pursuit of growing into further projects and having Missing Middle Solutions being the active company, which charges development fees to the individual projects, and it's just a way of tax sheltering and creating some liability separation a little bit. Um, that being said, it was relatively expensive to set up, and it has given us some flexibility. If I was to say go back to the beginning and say, hey, I'm a new person, I just want to start one project, I just want to give it a try it out with some partners. Um, I think a joint venture is a fine agreement, especially if you have, two or three people who all bring in their own money, who all bring in a skill set of some kind. Um, Joint venture is totally fine. Everyone's name goes on title. You have a joint venture agreement outlining uh, everyone's roles and responsibilities. Be very, very detailed on that. That's a totally fine way to do a first project. For us corporately, though, because we created the corporate structure from our holding companies all the way down, we do have within Missing Middle Solutions, we do have a shareholder agreement, and that document, like a joint venture agreement, really needs to outline roles and responsibilities of the shareholders, borrowing powers of the company, how many signatures you need to get something done. And then for us, one of the most important things that we did for us is that we've put in a borrowing limitation that we are not allowed to, as a company, borrow more than $1.2 million worth of funds. Sorry, more than $1.2 million above and beyond our current net asset value. And that is because we all have an agreement in place that we have enough equity and investments that we can liquidate on the back end on a personal side, that if something ever went wrong in the company, we liquidate that, put it into the company, all the investors make sure they get paid back, right?
Okay.
So it's just one of those. These are the shareholder agreement, though, joint venture agreement, whatever you set up, it's just like create those rules for the really terrible events that could happen. What happens if someone gets divorced? What happens if somebody passes away? These are all things that should be covered when you're setting up a business structure.
Okay.
The
Awesome.
uncomfortable conversations that we
Yeah.
actually did have, like.
Yeah, we did not necessarily have them as we were just getting into investing. Everything's roses, everything's great.
You don't think about all that hard stuff.
And we like reviewed all of our teachings from you and other masterminds that we've been in. You know, implementing stuff even like life insurance on ourselves.
Mhm.
Like that's something we never did before within a project or a corporation. What for? Well, if God forbid something happened to this person, what is their roles and responsibilities? Here it is. What's it going to cost to hire somebody to replace them? What's it going to cost to buy out investors? So factoring all these things in that we've learned, and this is part of growth, growing into that and actually putting that into our performance, putting it into our profit margin, seeing what we can support and what we can do and what makes financial sense and to protect everybody, all parties involved. And in terms of, it was interesting, we talk about joint ventures a lot and we use them a certain way. And doing these projects in these markets where the costs can be high, you know, looking for high net worth individuals and then talking to them, talking to our brokers who see these deals put together. How are these people structuring? Because we have a vision of where we want to get to, and that's where some of this is coming from. Like, well, this is how they set them up, and this is how this is done with this certain level of investor and this certain level of project, which we are targeting to get to. So it's really interesting to come full circle back to like a joint venture. We're like, yeah, that actually really makes sense. Because to Dale's point, yeah, we initially set up one corporation. Okay, we have one project. Oh, this works.
Mhm.
Gonna do another one, another one. We need to like, you know, it's kind of like you buy all these properties and set yourself up, and then you talk to an accountant, you talk to somebody who's fiscally responsible or knows how to set up corporations. Like, we got to restructure this. It's very costly. So luckily at the start, we said, we're going to do more. Let's do the parent co. Let's set these up. Let's restructure our borrowing and how we're doing it. And it was a lot of administrative work, but in the end, we're set up nicely and everything flows well. Our bookkeeper loves us. Like the corporate structures are all nice and neat, and it's repeatable. It's just like, hey, you want to do it again? Psh, do it again. Right?
Playbooks are made.
The playbooks and SOPs are made for
Yeah.
what we have to do, and they're always reviewed and refined, and we can always add, you know, add into them as things change. But yeah, it's an evolving process, I guess.
Yes. Okay. So give me an idea, throw a number out at me as far as time is concerned. From the time that you guys decided, okay, we're going to do more than just one deal, this works, to now being set up with your parent company, your other corporations, etc., getting everything in place, figuring out your life insurance, figuring out all this stuff. Like, was this something that took 1 month, 6 months, 10 years? Give me some sort of idea on timeline for those that are watching that have never done this before.
You mean for the for when we decided, hey, we're adding more projects to
Yes.
when we actually had the right corporate structure set up?
Yes.
Well, we let me think here. We put these projects, the second two projects, under contract November 2023. Colin, Nicole, and Melanie agreed to do these projects by kind of December. December's a little bit of a slow month. So then really got to work on the corporate structure January, February, and I think were we done by February? End of February, say?
Yeah, around there, I think.
So roughly 2 months, call it three,
Okay.
is what it took
Okay.
us of hard
Yeah.
work.
Good to know. Okay, so for those of you that are watching, to set yourself up, it's not like a 2 year long process. It took a few months. I'm sure there was a lot of work involved and a lot of consultation with probably accountants, lawyers, etc. But you got her done. You now, I can just tell by the way Colin is speaking, by the way Nicole is speaking, and you, Dale, like, you're happy you set it up right the first time. And so for those that are watching, these things can seem very complicated. But one takeaway that you can take, or that I'm taking from this, is when you start working with other people that are doing this stuff, you start working with the pros out there. You start bringing in, the lawyers and accountants and etc. that you're going to need. You have people to ask questions to. When you start creating all of these relationships, then that's when these types of things get put together, and that's where you can really start to make awesome things happen out there in the real estate world, in the investing world. So we could probably talk for hours, but we're running out of time. Thank you guys for sharing what you have shared to this point. I think there's a ton of value in what you've shared. What I do want to cover now, briefly is, where are you at as far as, are you still looking to start more projects? Are you still looking for funding on some of the projects that you currently are underway? Are you still raising capital? Where are you with all of that at this point? If somebody said, you know what, I love all the stuff Dale said, I love all the stuff Colin, Nicole have said. Melanie's not here because she's on a plane to go to Costa Rica, I think. So, you know, like with all of these things happening, if I wanted to get involved with this amazing group of people, are you still looking for people to get involved with you?
So with a project like this, like we have 3 things ongoing at the same time, it's typically kind of rolling. Like we are often still taking funds. Right now we are taking funds for soft costs. So it's like right about before the time we're going to be submitting for 2 more. Wow.
Development permits.
Yeah, we're just about ready to submit for like the 2nd and 3rd projects. The first project is well underway. We've got our construction draws already sort of like doing their thing. So right now we are looking for soft costs. So that's just cash. Then we've created a different, well, it's not like we created it, but for our first project, we sold equity. And because that particular project, we just looked at the numbers and we knew what we could offer and we knew it was great. And, you know, Dale did this amazing presentation, and like we had so many, like we had a wait list of people who wanted to get involved in the project. And so we filled that, like capital raise, no problem. And so we're hoping to also raise equity for the next project as well. We're just not quite there yet. So right now we are still raising capital. We're just raising for soft costs. And then so we'll be looking at raising equity in the future as well.
And to touch on your question about growth and where we were going, like we ultimately have a goal to have about 5 projects in and out in a year type of thing to grow. But well, Dale and I talked, but we did 1 and we did 3 and we chose to stop because it is a lot and we don't want to stretch ourselves too thin. We don't want to take on unnecessary risk. So Dale has a map. He has a map of all of the properties that this will work for, right? And people have caught on, prices are going up now. So you have to make sure it really works. But being first out of the gate, we're able to pick up these properties relatively inexpensive for the market.
And Dale's really smart about how to pick these properties up, but we can't let all our secrets go.
You know what?
Just knowing when to.
In this 55 minutes that we've been talking, I can tell Dale is really smart. I know Colin and Nicole, you guys are very smart. You guys have done a great job in not only putting all of this together, but also communicating what you're doing. I know you guys are always out there to help others learn stuff and assist with others wanting to do stuff. Obviously, you're doing great things with people's money at this point. So if somebody did want to get involved with, a project or what you have going on right now, how do they get a hold of you guys? What do they do?
Yep. So we have a website, so missingmiddlesolutions.ca. You can reach out, Nicole. I mean, we're in Fearless all the time. We're IGNiTED members, as you can see. Facebook, message us. Nicole put her email in the chat here. Dale at Develop with Dale. Again, Dale has a very heavy social media presence, so we're very easy to find: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, email. So let us know, hit us up. We'll put you on our email list. We send out monthly newsletters as well for all of our projects, as well as Missing Middle Solutions. And we've been getting some really good feedback on the detail. And if you want access to the data room, transparency, you like spreadsheets, you can have some fun in there and play around and see what you like, and our design drawings and things like that. So heavily on social media, really easy to find us.
Okay. Love it. We have maybe 2 minutes left. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add to what we've talked about so far, or any words of advice for somebody out there listening that is maybe just getting started in real estate investment and all of this is new to them? Is there anything that you would tell them?
Yeah, take your time. Real estate's a long game, and partnerships take time to form. yeah, I would just say take your time, investigate, walk slowly but decisively, and take care of your money. Because it's a challenging world out there. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Love it.
Mm.
Same.
Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, we have the same sort of general concept of like real estate is a slow growth game. I can't say it enough times. But I mean, I echo what you were saying about relationships. It definitely is about building relationships and, getting yourself into rooms with people who are doing what you want to do.
Mhm.
Right? If this is something that you want to do, get yourself into rooms where there are brokers who broker this types of deals, or like construction, like people in construction who understand this types of stuff. Like, just get yourself around those people and start having those conversations so that you can just like getting the language, it makes you feel more comfortable. And then you start to be able to be part of the conversations and have confidence in yourself.
I would say like invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Invest in your education. That is where we met Dale. We look back in our chats, like we did talk long before we actually met. And it's always interesting, the circles, but definitely invest in yourself. Get to know the people, and don't partnerships. It's easy to partner with your friends. It's easy to partner with people that you like and you get along, but really look at the partnership and make sure that you're all bringing something to the table. You don't all have the same skills, and then you're missing stuff. Make sure you have all the pegs of your tripod there. Everybody's secure and sound, and just make sure that it's going to work. That's some really good advice that we really think about when we're choosing who to partner with.
Okay. I love it. Awesome stuff. Congrats on everything you guys are doing. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. There's some excitement. I'm sure there's some stress that goes along with it. Everything is not rainbows and unicorns when it comes to real estate investing or building or developing or whatever it is that we're doing. But great advice. And just one last word for everybody that's watching is um, exactly what Dale said, exactly what Colin and Nicole said. And the only thing I would add to that is do something. Don't rush, take your time, but take some sort of action. I don't know how many people I've watched sit there and watch for years upon years, and they don't take action. So do something, and those relationships are so important. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I love it. That was a great conversation. And we will see all of our IGNiTED members over in our Zoom laser session here in just a couple minutes, actually right now. But thanks, guys, for joining us, and have a great evening. And Dale, you were sick, but you still made it. I appreciate that. And say hi to Melanie, who is probably on a plane by now. But yeah, have a great night, everybody. And we'll see our IGNiTED members over
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Good night.
Thank you.